8,848 meters. Everyone knows the number, the height of Everest, the roof of the world. Every year, hundreds of people set off toward this giant, dreaming of standing on the planet's highest point. Millionaires queue along the slopes. Business travelers hand over $70,000 for a chance to snap a summit selfie. Everest has become a symbol, a dream, an achievement, a triumph of human will over nature. Children and elders have climbed it, along with blind mountaineers and climbers missing limbs. The Japanese adventurer Yuichiro Miura reached the top at the age of 80. The American Eric Weihenmayer was the first blind person to stand on the world's roof. And Nepali climber Kami Rita has reached the summit 29 times. The mountain is now a playground for wealthy thrill seekers. Chefs cook sushi at 7,000 meters. Guides lead groups like museum docents. Sherpa porters haul oxygen tanks and even plasma TVs to the base camps. In 2019, a real traffic jam formed on Everest. Climbers waited in line for the summit, as if at a supermarket checkout. Photos of that queue traveled the globe, people standing for hours at 8,000 meters, where every minute matters. But there is another mountain, K2, only 237 meters lower than Everest, a difference no taller than a school building or an extra elevator ride in a skyscraper. Yet climbers speak of it with awe and dread, the savage mountain, the merciless peak, the killer, the mountain without pity. Some call it the mountain that does not forgive. Imagine that. The second highest peak on Earth carries a far darker reputation than the first. If Everest is an adventure Disneyland, K2 is pure hell. No one comes here for selfies, no vacationing executives. There are no tourist lines on K2. Only true professionals make the attempt, the elite of world mountaineering, and not all return. In some years, no one reaches the top at all. The mountain simply refuses. The numbers tell the story. Everest welcomes thousands every year. In 2023, more than 600 climbers stood on its summit in a single season. K2, in its best year, only a few dozen. In a bad year, none. Everest supports a whole industry. Lodges, restaurants, internet, satellite links. Helicopters ferry supplies straight to base camps. K2 meets climbers in absolute isolation. No infrastructure, no comfort, no margin for error. Just you, the mountain, and death walking beside you. History remembers the first men to conquer K2. The Italians, Achille Compagnoni and Lino Lacedelli in 1954. Few recall how many died before them, or how many have died since. Why does the world's second highest peak terrify even seasoned mountaineers more than Everest? What hides behind those numbers? What gives K2 its deadly power? The statistics are brutal. For every 4 climbers who reach the top, 1 dies. 1 in 4. Picture that gamble. Everest's ratio is about 1 in 50, 50 times safer. It's a strange paradox. The lower mountain is deadlier. K2 claims 1 out of every 4 who dare to challenge it. Everest takes about 1 in 50. These aren't just statistics. Each number is a life, a dream that never made it home. Legend says K2 is a woman, a fierce, jealous woman who suffers no men on her slopes. Everest, by contrast, carries a masculine name, though in Tibetan it is Chomolungma, mother goddess of the world. Yet even that goddess is kinder than the nameless K2. And why no beautiful name for K2? Because no one ever lived near it. Locals feared the mountain, avoided it, never named it, hoping not to draw its attention. K2 is just a catalog number in a survey of the Karakoram, a cold technical label for a peak without a soul. Today we compare more than heights. We enter the dark ledger of deaths, hear the stories of tragedy, and discover why one mountain became a tourist attraction, while the other remains a trial for only the most daring. We'll explore the natural forces that turn rock and ice into a relentless killer. Learn why even veteran climbers shiver at the name K2, and ask where courage ends and recklessness begins. Get ready. What you're about to hear may change the way you think about conquering the top of the world. Sometimes the highest point isn't the real challenge. Sometimes the devil hides in the details, and sometimes those details decide who lives and who doesn't. May 29th, 1953. That date forever changed the history of mountaineering. New Zealander Edmund Hillary and Sherpa Tenzing Norgay took the first steps onto the roof of the world. Just 30 minutes on the planet's highest point, a handful of photographs, and humanity had its first heroes of the space age. Hillary was knighted, Tenzing became a national hero of Nepal, and Everest turned into a symbol, a sign that humans can do anything, that no summit is unreachable, that dreams come true if you want them badly enough. But no one back then imagined what this dream would become 70 years later. No one foresaw the mountain turning into a conveyor of death for some and a gold mine for others. Today, anyone with $60,000 and a doctor's note can climb Everest. Homemakers from Texas, coders from Silicon Valley, oil magnates from Russia. The mountain has become an extreme amusement park for the wealthy. Picture the scale. In 2023, 655 people reached the summit in a single season, more than the population of a small town. Over the course of history, more than 6,000 climbers have stood on the top, and the number keeps growing at a staggering pace. Commercial outfits now sell Everest as a package tour. Everest in 45 days sounds like a cruise advertisement. Guides promise to bring any client to the summit, as long as the money is paid. Mountaineering experience, optional, physical conditioning, manageable if your wallet is deep enough. But the mountain does not forgive carelessness. The numbers are merciless. 319 people have died on Everest since climbs began. Every year, new names join that list. The death rate is roughly 3% of all who attempt the ascent. That means 3 out of every 100 climbers never make it home. What kills on the roof of the world? Enemy number one is altitude. At the summit, oxygen is only a third of what it is at sea level. Every breath is a fight for life. The brain starts to die from lack of oxygen. Cerebral edema, a silent killer, offers no second chances. American doctor Beck Weathers collapsed on Everest in 1996. His team thought he was dead and left him. But Weathers woke up. Blind from frostbite, he staggered back to camp. He lost his nose and part of a hand, but he survived. A medical miracle. Avalanches are the mountain's second killer. In April 2014, a slide in the Khumbu icefall killed 16 Sherpas in a heartbeat. Seasoned Highlanders who knew Everest like their own home died instantly. The mountain reminded everyone who was in charge. Then came 2015. A massive earthquake in Nepal triggered avalanches on Everest. 22 people were killed. Base camp became a battlefield. Climbers from around the world joined forces to save the injured. Nature proved stronger than any ambition. Frostbite maims dozens every year. Above 8,000 meters, the temperature plunges to minus 40 degrees. Wind makes the cold even more brutal. Fingers and toes die within minutes. Many climbers lose limbs, but call it a fair price for the summit. Japanese climber Nobukazu Kuriki made 7 attempts on Everest, losing 9 fingers to frostbite. On his 8th try, he finally reached the top. Afterward, he said, "Now I understand what it means to be alive." A year later, he died on another 8,000er. And the most modern threat? Traffic jams. Yes, traffic jams in the death zone above 8,000 meters. Climbers wait for hours, burning precious oxygen, shuffling toward the summit. The death zone earned its name for a reason. Above 8,000 meters, the human body starts to die. Every minute counts. Yet, commercial groups create bottlenecks like rush hour in a big city. People perish standing in line for their dream. Rob Hall, one of Everest's most experienced guides, died in 1996 while trying to save a client. His last radio message to base camp became legend. "Tell my wife I love her." His story showed the world the true price of Everest's commercialization. The 2015 film Everest brought that tragedy to millions. 8 people died in a single night when a sudden storm struck, veteran guides and novices alike. The mountain makes no distinction between expert and amateur. Commercialization has created a paradox. Modern gear, accurate forecasts, and reliable oxygen systems make Everest more accessible than ever. Satellite phones can summon rescue teams. But the crowds are deadly. Inexperienced climbers move slowly, clogging the route. They panic in crises. They can't make quick decisions when every second matters. The Sherpas, the Himalayan natives, have become captives of the tourist industry. They guide, carry loads, and perform rescues. Their death rate is far higher than that of Western climbers. For every tourist saved, 2 Sherpas may die. Their names rarely make the headlines. Ami Tenba is one of them, a Sherpa who has climbed Everest 38 times, more than anyone else on Earth. He's a living legend, but he's lost dozens of friends on the slopes. Everest gives me bread, but takes my brothers, he says. Environmental disaster is another face of commercialization. Everest's slopes are littered with trash, empty oxygen cylinders, torn tents, even bodies, forever frozen in place. In the death zone, cleanup is nearly impossible. The mountain has become the highest landfill on the planet. The remains of fallen climbers serve as grim markers. For more than 20 years, green boots, the body of an unknown climber in bright footwear, was a landmark on the route until it was finally removed in 2014. Recovering a body from Everest can cost as much as $100,000. Many families can't afford it, so the mountain keeps its dead as dark monuments to human ambition. Modern Everest is an industry of death and dreams. Every year hundreds arrive, willing to gamble their lives for a few minutes at the top. For some, it's the greatest triumph. For others, the final adventure. The mountain continues to take its bloody toll. 319 dead over 70 years, nearly 5 each year. Behind every number is a broken family, an unfinished dream, a life cut short on the path to the stars. Yet, people keep climbing, because Everest remains a symbol, a reminder that humans can rise above the clouds, that some dreams are worth any price, that there are things more important than safety or reason. Everest is a mirror of human nature. It reflects our ambition and our weakness, our courage and our recklessness, our nobility and our greed. On its slopes, everyone finds what they're looking for and what they fear. May 10th, 1996, begins like any other day on Everest. The sun is bright, the wind calm, visibility perfect. Ideal conditions for a summit push. Several commercial teams prepare for the final assault. No one imagines this day will become the darkest chapter in modern mountaineering. 2 main teams are on the mountain. The first, Adventure Consultants, led by New Zealander Rob Hall. The second, Mountain Madness, guided by American Scott Fisher. Both men are legends. Hall has already led clients to the summit 5 times. Fisher has climbed all the world's highest peaks. They are more than expert climbers. They are stars of the high-altitude tourism industry. Their names guarantee success. Clients pay $65,000 to climb with them, trusting in their promise of safety and results. But the mountain has set a deadly trap. At dawn, the teams leave Camp 4 for the summit. About 30 people are on the route: clients, guides, high-altitude Sherpas. The weather holds beautifully. Everything seems on track. Rob Hall is a perfectionist. He never bends safety rules. His golden rule: turn back at 2 in the afternoon, no matter how close the summit is. After that, the descent becomes dangerous. Darkness falls early, strength fades, oxygen runs low. Scott Fisher is the opposite, a charismatic risk-taker who lives for adventure. He trusts determination more than schedules. "We'll get there, whatever it takes," is his favorite line. Trouble starts early. The teams move slower than planned. Clients tire faster than expected. At the technical Hillary step, a traffic jam forms. Precious time slips away. By midday, it's clear the schedule is blown. But the summit is so close. To turn back now would mean lost money, lost reputation, disappointed clients. The guides make a fateful choice: to keep going. 2 p.m., Hall's sacred turnaround time, comes and goes. But the climb continues. Ambition wins over caution. For the first time in his career, Hall breaks his own rule. It will cost him his life. The first climbers reach the top around 4 in the afternoon, 2 hours late. Clients cheer, snap photos, savor their triumph. But clouds thicken, the barometer drops, a storm is coming. The descent becomes a nightmare. Exhausted climbers move slowly. Visibility shrinks. Oxygen runs out, and the weather turns vicious. By evening, a savage storm slams the mountain. Winds hit 120 kilometers an hour. Temperatures plunge to -40. Visibility drops to 0. Climbers lose their bearings just meters from their tents. Teams scatter. Radios fail. Everyone fights for life alone. The mountain becomes a frozen hell. Rob Hall is trapped near the summit with client Doug Hansen, a postal worker from Seattle who spent his savings on this climb. It's his second attempt. The year before, he turned back 100 meters from the top. Now, he refuses to descend without standing on the summit. Hall stays with him, even knowing it means death for both. The radio link to base camp crackles. Hall's pregnant wife hears his final words. "Tell her that her father loves her." Scott Fisher battles altitude sickness all day but hides it from his team. During the descent, he collapses. Guide Anatoly Bukrev tries to save him, but the storm makes evacuation impossible. Bukrev becomes the night's hero. Again and again, the Russian climber ventures into the blizzard, searching for the lost. He rescues 3 American clients freezing on the glacier, without an oxygen mask, wearing only a light jacket, charging into the icy chaos. Clients turn from tourists to victims. Texas oil man Beck Weathers goes blind from altitude sickness and is left for dead. After 12 hours in the cold, he rises and stumbles back to camp, nose and a hand lost, but alive. Japanese climber Yasuko Namba, first woman to conquer 6 of the 7 summits, should have had her crowning moment. Instead, she freezes just a few hundred meters from safety. A tiny woman who had conquered the world dies of exhaustion. Doug Hansen never descends. His dream costs his life. Rob Hall remains with him to the end. Both perish at the height of their ambition. 8 people die in a single night, including 2 of the planet's most seasoned high-altitude guides. The tragedy shocks the climbing world. For the first time, commercial expeditions reveal their deadly side. What went wrong? Why did such experienced professionals make fatal mistakes? Competition between the teams played a deadly part. Hall and Fisher were friends but rivals on the mountain. Each wanted to deliver for their clients. Company prestige outweighed caution. Clients added pressure. They had paid huge sums and demanded success. "I didn't spend $65,000 to turn around," was a common refrain. Technology gave a false sense of security. Satellite phones, precise forecasts, top-notch gear, all convinced people Everest was now safe. But the mountain remained a killer. Crowds on the route caused dangerous delays. Teams blocked each other, lost precious time. When the crisis hit, there was no coordination. The 1996 disaster changed high-altitude tourism forever. Journalist John Krakauer, a member of Hall's expedition, wrote a best-selling book exposing the harsh realities of commercial climbing. The 2015 film Everest carried the story to millions. Jason Clarke played Rob Hall. Jake Gyllenhaal portrayed Scott Fisher. The movie didn't soften the events. It showed how ambition and greed can be deadly. Families of the dead coped in different ways. Rob Hall's wife gave birth to a daughter, Sarah, the name her dying father chose over the radio. She grew up never knowing him, but proud of his courage. Anatoly Bukrev wrote his own account, defending his actions and challenging Krakauer's. A year later, he died on Annapurna while saving teammates from an avalanche, a hero to the end. Beck Weathers returned to Texas disabled but alive. He became a motivational speaker, sharing lessons of willpower and the value of life. Everest taught me the greatest truth. Getting home alive matters more than being a hero. The tragedy revealed the central paradox of commercial mountaineering. Money can make mountains more accessible, but not safer. A guide's skill can offset a client's inexperience, but cannot erase the laws of nature. Modern technology helps survival, but can't prevent human error. May 10, 1996 became a turning point in Everest's history, a day when the high-altitude tourism industry grew up, when the world learned that even the best professionals are still human, and humans make mistakes, especially when the stakes are so high. Everest still kills. But now every climber knows the story of 1996, knows that the mountain cares nothing for experience or fame, that nature is stronger than ambition, and that sometimes wisdom means knowing when to turn back. 8 lives in a single day. 8 stories of dreams that turned deadly. 8 lessons for anyone daring to challenge the roof of the world. 8,611 meters above sea level, only 237 meters lower than Everest. It sounds like a small difference, but those few meters make the planet's second highest peak, the deadliest mountain on Earth. Welcome to K2, the mountain that claims 1 life for every 4 who dare to challenge it. K2 rises in the heart of the Karakoram Range, straddling the border of China and Pakistan. Here, there is none of Everest's tourist infrastructure. No cozy lodges in the valley, no helicopter pads, no crowds of sightseers with cameras. Only raw wilderness, sheer ice walls, and death that never sleeps. The locals fear this mountain. They never gave it a graceful name the way Everest has so many. Chomolungma, Sagarmatha. K2 remains just a catalog number, the second peak in the Karakoram, a cold, clinical label for a mountain without a soul. It's a stark contrast. Everest is sacred to the people who live beneath it. Ancient pilgrimage routes lead to its base. Sherpa families have honored it as a deity for centuries. But K2? People avoided it, unwilling even to draw near. Why does a mountain lower than Everest kill 5 times more climbers? The answer lies in its geography, climate, and brutal character. K2 isn't just tall, it's a perfectly designed machine for killing mountaineers. Start with its shape. Everest is a massive pyramid with comparatively gentle upper slopes and routes that, while dangerous, can be managed. K2 is a knife-edged pyramid with steep walls on every side. There are no easy ways up. Every route is a vertical death trap. The south face is legendary for its difficulty, with sections angled up to 80 degrees. It isn't climbing so much as scaling a sheer ice wall 8 kilometers above sea level. One slip, and a climber falls 1.5 miles. The north side is no kinder, plagued by constant rockfall. Huge blocks of ice break free without warning. Climbers call it the Wall of Falling Seracs, towering ice pinnacles that collapse at the slightest warmth. For years, the west face was thought unclimbable. The first ascent came only in 1981, when 3 climbers spent 2 months on the wall. 1 died on the way down. The mountain took its usual toll. K2's climate is even harsher than Everest's. It sits farther north, in a more continental zone. Temperatures plunge lower, winds howl stronger, storms strike harder, and more unpredictably. Meteorologists call K2 a factory of bad weather. Warm southern air meets frigid Arctic flows here, creating relentless storms that can rage for weeks. The statistics are merciless. 1 in 4 climbers who reach the summit never comes back. On Everest, the death rate is around 3%, 8 times lower. That's the line between extreme sport and suicide. But numbers are just cold facts. Behind each percentage lie broken families and dreams that ended on the slopes. K2 takes the steepest toll of any mountain on Earth. The first attempt came in 1902. A British team led by the occultist Aleister Crowley didn't even make it halfway. 4 men died in an avalanche. Crowley came down and called K2 the most evil mountain in the world. The first successful climb was in 1954, when Italians Achille Compagnoni and Lino Laccadelli stood on the summit on July 31st. Even that victory demanded blood. 1 climber died preparing the route. K2 grants no easy triumphs. An American tragedy in 1953 became legend. Art Gilkey developed a life-threatening blood clot at 7,500 meters. His team tried to carry him down, but an avalanche swept him away. His body was found only 50 years later. That place is now the Gilkey Memorial. Metal plaques engraved with names of the fallen cover an entire rock face. Each year, more names are added. A grim open-air museum. Women fare even worse here. The first woman to summit was the Polish climber Wanda Rutkiewicz in 1986. A year later, she died on Kangchenjunga. It's as if K2 cursed the women who dared to reach its top. French alpinist Chantal Mauduit reached the summit in 1992 and survived, only to die 2 years later on Dhaulagiri. American Allison Hargreaves summited K2 in 1995 and was killed 3 months later during her descent in bad weather. The pattern is chilling. Of the first 5 women to stand on K2, 4 died in the mountains within 2 years. Coincidence? Climbers don't think so. They speak of the curse of K2. 2008 was a black year. On August 1st, 11 climbers from 7 countries died in a single day when seracs collapsed in a narrow choke point. An ice avalanche swept everyone in the bottleneck to their deaths. Among them was Irish climber Ger McDonnell, filming a documentary as the disaster unfolded. His camera captured his final moments, proof of how quickly K2 can turn a dream into a nightmare. Pakistani mountaineer Muhammad Ali Sadpara, one of the world's strongest high-altitude climbers, made the first winter ascent of K2, an achievement once thought impossible. In 2021, he died there, attempting another winter climb alone. K2 spares no one, no matter how gifted. The technical challenge here dwarfs Everest. On the world's roof, relatively inexperienced climbers can reach the top with guides. On K2, only the most skilled have a chance. There is no room for mistakes or weakness. Even oxygen masks offer little help. The climb is so steep and demanding that carrying heavy cylinders can be fatal. Most climbers go without supplemental oxygen, drastically increasing the risk of altitude sickness. Rescues are nearly impossible. Helicopters can't fly above 6,000 meters. Evacuating the injured means days of perilous descent, and often teammates have no choice but to leave the dead behind. The weather turns in an instant. A sunny morning can become a killing storm in half an hour. Winds knock climbers off their feet. Visibility drops to nothing. Temperatures plunge to -50. Avalanches threaten year-round. The slopes are so steep that snow never settles for long. The slightest shift in temperature or wind can trigger a slide. Climbers live in constant fear of a white death. Rockfall is another killer. Daytime sun melts the ice that holds stones in place, and by evening, rocks shoot down like bullets. The only defense is speed and luck. K2's psychological pressure has broken some of the strongest climbers. The mountain's deadly reputation hangs over every step. Each decision is life or death. Many turn back, overwhelmed by the mental strain. Yet K2 continues to lure the world's best. For them, it isn't just a summit, it's the ultimate test. A trial that separates true mountaineers from everyone else. A challenge at the edge of the possible. Climbing K2 is no tourist adventure like Everest. It is a duel with death itself. Victories are rare. The price of failure is life. Every success is shadowed by someone else's tragedy. The killer mountain keeps taking its bloody toll. A 25% death rate is not a statistic, it is a sentence. 1 in 4 who dare to face the second highest peak on Earth never return. K2 remains the last stronghold of pure mountaineering, a place where money and technology mean nothing, where only skill, will, and luck can bring you back alive. August 1st, 2008. A date forever marked as the blackest in K2's history. The day the killer mountain outdid itself. In 24 hours, K2 swallowed 11 lives. 11 climbers from 7 countries. 11 stories of courage that ended in tragedy. The world's best high-altitude climbers had gathered on K2. Teams from Norway, the Netherlands, France, South Korea, Pakistan, Serbia, and Ireland. Veterans who treated 8,000ers the way tourists treat hills. But even their mastery could not fend off the mountain's wrath. The weather is flawless. Bright sun, steady wind, crystal visibility. Ideal for a summit push. Every team decides to go for the top at the same time. A fateful call that will turn triumph into catastrophe. The crux is the bottleneck, a narrow passage hemmed by giant ice towers at about 8,200 meters. The only way to the top. Only one climber can pass at a time. Fixed ropes hang here, and this is where K2 lays its trap. Morning. The teams move upward. Around 20 climbers are on the route. Progress is slow. The choke point creates a queue. People wait their turn in the death zone, burning strength and oxygen. Norwegian Lars Ness, one of the strongest high-altitude climbers alive, leads the first wave, breaking trail. K2 is meant to be the jewel on his crown of 14 8,000ers. The Korean team moves tight and disciplined, led by Kim Hyo-gyun, a master of high altitude. 3 teammates stay close. They dream of becoming the first Koreans to stand on K2, a dream about to turn into a nightmare. Dutch climber Geir van de Kamen climbs with his friend Cas van de Graaf. Their plan is to go without oxygen, the ultimate test. 2 seasoned alpinists who read mountains like a map. Irishman Ger McDonald climbs with a camera. He is filming a documentary on K2, hoping to show the world the beauty and danger of Earth's second highest peak. He does not know he will record his own death. By midday, the first climbers reach the summit. Ness snaps a selfie with Norway's flag. The Koreans embrace, crying with joy. McDonald films the triumphant moments. Everyone is elated. Everyone celebrates. K2 has yet to bare its fangs. The descent begins around 3 in the afternoon. The climbers are tired but content. Ahead lie a safe camp, hot food, stories of victory. None of them imagines that for most, this is the last sunlight they will ever see. Disaster erupts in the bottleneck. A massive serac, a tower of ice the size of an apartment block, collapses without warning. Thousands of tons of ice sweep the slope clean. The fixed ropes snap like spider silk. The way out is gone. Climbers are trapped above the choke point. Without ropes, descending the near-vertical wall is suicide. But staying put is death too. A night at 8,000 meters without shelter is a guarantee. The fight for survival begins. Each climber must choose, attempt an unprotected down climb, or wait for help that may never come. It is a choice between nearly certain death and absolutely certain death. Lars Ness chooses to descend. He knows ice, he trusts his movement. But exhaustion and thin air take their toll. He slips on the wall and disappears into the void. His body will be found days later. The Korean team decides to wait for dawn. 4 climbers huddle together, trying to hold warmth. The cold, 30 below, shows no mercy. By morning, all 4 have frozen where they sit, as if asleep. Geir van de Kamen tries to help them. He gives up his jacket, tries to warm them with his breath. He freezes too, but refuses to leave. At sunrise, rescuers find 5 bodies. Van de Kamen died a hero, trying to save strangers. His friend Kaz van de Graaf makes a different call. He attempts a ropeless descent in the dark. The expert ice climber inches down the wall, but at around 7,800 meters, an avalanche sweeps him away. French alpinist Nick Nicola tries to organize a rescue. He heads down to fetch new ropes for those trapped above. The seracs keep collapsing. Another icefall buries him under tons of frozen water. Pakistani high-altitude workers Jumik Bahote and Pasang Lama become the day's heroes. They descend for ropes, risking everything, and establish a new line around the destroyed section. Thanks to their courage, several climbers make it down alive. But heroism demands a price. Jumik Bahote dies while fixing the new ropes, knocked into the abyss by a falling block of ice. Pasang Lama is badly injured, but survives, and will remember this day for the rest of his life. Ger McDonnell keeps filming until the end. His footage becomes a unique record of the disaster, people fighting for life, making final choices, fading into the snows of K2. McDonnell himself dies trying to descend. He falls on the ice wall and disappears into a crevasse. His camera is found beside him. The last frames show his fall. The director filmed his own death. Serbian climber Dran Mandic witnesses the horror, watching teammates die one after another. He survives by a razor's edge, with severe frostbite. Later, he says, "K2 showed us hell, a true frozen hell." Italian climber Marco Confortola lives by sheer luck. He happens to be in a safe spot when the serac collapses. He sees the catastrophe but cannot help. He gets down and raises the alarm. His testimony helps piece together the timeline. A rescue begins only the next day. Pakistani military helicopters try to reach the site, but 8,000 meters is beyond their ceiling. Rescuers climb on foot. It is too late. By nightfall on August 2nd, the scale is clear. 11 people dead in a single day. More than K2 claims in a typical year. The worst disaster in the history of the second highest mountain on Earth. Among the dead are citizens of 7 nations. The climbing world reels. The press calls August 1st, 2008, K2's Black Day. A date every mountaineer will remember. Investigators find no single culprit. It is an ideal storm of events. Perfect weather lures many teams at once. The choke point creates a jam. The serac collapse wipes out the safety line. Nature plays its deadly hand. Yet the tragedy also reveals the best in people. Pakistani workers risk their lives to save Europeans. A Dutch climber dies trying to warm Korean teammates. A French alpinist is killed hauling ropes for others. Families respond in different ways. Some blame organizers for negligence. Others accept the price of playing K2's game. The Killer Mountain offers no discounts, even to the best of the best. The memorial gains 11 new plaques. The names of those lost on August 1st are carved in stone, a permanent reminder to future climbers of ambition's cost. K2 keeps killing. But that day stands apart. The day the mountain showed it could be even more merciless. The day 11 dreamers paid with their lives for reaching toward the stars. The disaster of 2008 changes. How teams approach K2. Climbers become more cautious. Coordination improves, but the mountain remains the same killer. Now everyone knows it can take even the finest among us. 11 lives in one day. 11 stories of dreams turning into nightmares. 11 lessons for anyone still hoping to challenge the world's second highest peak. Picture 2 killer mountains. Both stand over 8,000 meters. Both are deadly. But they kill in completely different ways. Everest is a factory of tragedy, a mass production line of disaster. K2 is death as a custom craft, silent, sudden, and precise. One mountain has become a commercial conveyor with predictable risks. The other remains a wild predator that strikes without warning. The difference begins with the approach. The path to Everest is like a highway. Trails are beaten flat by thousands of feet. Every few kilometers, you find tea houses serving hot drinks and chocolate. Bridges span the rivers, signs mark the way. Trash bins stand by the trail. It feels like a well-kept route in a national park. Getting to K2 starts with a helicopter ride to the village of Skardu, then days of trekking through wilderness. No comforts, no infrastructure, only raw nature, bears, and danger at every step. Reaching base camp is already an expedition. Base camps are worlds apart. Everest is a small city. Hundreds of tents, pop-up movie theaters, internet cafes, even showers. Chefs prepare sushi and pizza at 5,300 meters. There are massage therapists and, unbelievably, entertainers flown in for clients. K2's base camp is a stark military outpost, just a scatter of tents on a glacier. No frills beyond the absolute essentials. Climbers cook their own food, repair their own gear, make every decision themselves. There is no service here, only survival. The people are different too. Everest draws software developers from Silicon Valley, oil magnates from Russia, homemakers from suburbia. Many have never truly climbed before. All that matters is a fat wallet and a doctor's note. K2 attracts only professionals, climbers with decades of experience and countless brutal ascents, masters of ice and rock who have spent half their lives in the mountains. For them, climbing is not a hobby, it is a calling. The guiding systems couldn't be more different. On Everest, a well-oiled machine of Sherpa guides leads clients like children across a street. They carry packs, cook meals, pitch tents. The client just walks and breathes through an oxygen mask. On K2, everyone is on their own. Even within a team, each climber makes every decision. No one carries your pack or cooks your food. Make a mistake, dead. Fall behind, dead. Hesitate, dead. The mountain offers no second chances. The technical gap is a chasm. The standard Everest route is within reach of anyone in solid physical shape. Hard, yes. Dangerous, yes. But technically not much tougher than a very long staircase. Every K2 route demands elite skill in rock and ice climbing. Vertical walls, collapsing seracs, narrow ice couloirs. One misstep and you fall a mile and a half. Here you must climb, not just hike. Oxygen use tells the story too. On Everest, bottled oxygen is the norm. Nearly every commercial climber relies on it, making the climb safer and more accessible. On K2, most climbers go without, not out of bravado or to save money. The weight of cylinders is a deadly handicap on such a steep technical route. Better to risk thin air than to stumble under extra kilos. The dangers themselves are different. Everest kills in mass, but with a grim predictability. Avalanches in the Khumbu icefall, bottlenecks in the death zone, brain-swelling altitude sickness, exhaustion from the long grind. K2 kills suddenly, without warning. Seracs collapse without a sound. Storms explode from a clear sky. Rockfall can start any time. The mountain feels alive, waiting for its moment to strike. Traffic jams have become Everest's dark signature. Hundreds of climbers stand in line near the summit like shoppers at a checkout, wasting precious oxygen, freezing, and tiring. Many die not from injury, but from exhaustion in those queues. K2 never jams. There are too few people. In a good year, a few dozen reach the summit. In a bad year, none. The mountain regulates its own traffic, cutting down most who dare. Rescues show another gulf. Everest has a polished rescue network. Helicopters reach as high as the second camp. Experienced teams evacuate the injured. Hospitals and hyperbaric chambers wait in the valley. On K2, rescue is almost impossible. Helicopters can't fly above 6,000 meters. Evacuating a casualty means a days-long descent in lethal conditions. More often than not, teammates must leave the wounded to save themselves. Brutal, but real. The psychological strain is different too. Everest offers an air of managed risk. Clients believe expert guides and modern tech will shield them. Money seems to buy safety. On K2, everyone knows. Death can come at any moment, from anything. The mental pressure is immense. Even seasoned climbers sometimes break before they reach the hard pitches. The mountain crushes the mind with its deadly reputation. Seasons differ as well. Everest can be climbed twice a year, spring or autumn. If you miss the spring window, you can try again in the fall. K2 grants only a brief summer window in July and August when the weather is barely stable. Miss it and you wait another year. No second chances. Media coverage tells its own story. Every Everest summit makes headlines, especially if a celebrity or record is involved. News crews feast on the drama. K2 stays in the shadows. Its ascents appear only in specialist climbing journals. The general public rarely hears the names of its heroes. The mountain remains the realm of a small, devoted elite. Commercially, the two are worlds apart. Everest is a multi-million-dollar industry. Hundreds of companies selling climbs, competing with marketing and glossy brochures. The mountain has become a product to buy and sell. K2 resists the marketplace. Yes, you pay for a permit from the Pakistani government. Yes, gear and logistics cost money, but it isn't a business, it's a vocation. The death rates speak plainly. Everest, about 3% of climbers lost. K2, about 25%, 8 times higher. Everest claims 1 in 30. K2 claims 1 in 4. And the manner of death differs. On Everest, people often die from their own mistakes, overconfidence, exhaustion, poor decisions. Human error outweighs the mountain itself. On K2, even the best can be taken by sheer natural force. Skill can't always save you from an ice avalanche or a sudden storm. Both mountains kill. But Everest deals death through human missteps in a managed risk environment. K2 deals death through nature's chaos in absolute risk. One mountain offers a chance to the inexperienced but wealthy. The other can kill the finest climber alive. Choosing between Everest and K2 is choosing a philosophy of risk. Want to buy an adventure? Go to Everest. Ready to stake your life? Try K2. One mountain sells dreams. The other tests your very soul. Everest and K2. Two worlds of high-altitude climbing, two ways to face death, two paths to prove yourself, and two lessons that mountains forgive nothing, no matter how much you pay for the climb. K2 remains the one 8,000er you cannot buy. The market means nothing here. No wealthy vacationers show up looking for thrills. This is the last stronghold where skill, grit, and luck rule. A place where climbing is still the art of survival, not a tourist spectacle. Imagine a mountain with no tour companies, no K2 in 45 days packages, no promises that money will get you to the top. On K2, cash buys nothing. The only currency is experience, mastery, and iron will. Every climber who comes to K2 has spent years in preparation. Countless difficult ascents, Himalayan expeditions, thousands of hours on rock and ice. This is the elite of world alpinism. There are no casual visitors here. Everyone understands the price of every step, reads the clouds for subtle shifts, hears the warning in a change of wind. These climbers live in the language of the mountains. Russian alpinist Valentin Bozhakov reached the summit in 2007 after 3 decades of climbing the peaks of the Pamirs, Tian Shan, and Caucasus. This mountain tolerates no amateurs, he said. Only those who understand the language of the peaks survive. Italian climber Simone Moro has attempted K2 3 times, each in winter, the deadliest season. K2 teaches honesty, he explains. You can't lie to the mountain or to yourself. On K2, there are no clients. Everyone stands equal before the mountain. Money and titles don't matter. What matters is whether you can climb ice in a storm, make the right decision in a heartbeat, and risk your life for a partner. Technical demands cut away 99% of hopefuls. To climb here, you must scale vertical ice rated WI6, a level only a handful of climbers ever achieve. You need rock skills at grade 5 or 8, serious even for dedicated rock climbers. Every route demands a full spectrum of ability. Ice walls give way to rock faces, narrow couloirs to wide glaciers. You must be a master of every terrain. The mental demands are just as fierce. There is no room for panic. A single moment of hesitation can cost a life. Climbers must stay clear-headed when every second matters. American alpinist Ed Viesturs, who summited all 14 8,000ers without oxygen, calls K2 the hardest of them all. On Everest, you can make a mistake, he says. On K2, your first mistake is your last. The physical requirements are brutal. Every climber carries all their own gear. No one hauls your pack or cooks your meals. Each extra kilogram on your back raises the risk of a fatal slip on the technical pitches. Most of all, K2 demands the ability to read the mountain, to sense its mood, to feel danger coming from the smallest sign. That intuition takes years to build and cannot be bought. Japanese climber Yuki Sato spent 40 days on K2, waiting for a weather break. 3 times he started for the summit and 3 times turned back, sensing a storm. On his 4th try, he reached the top. "The mountain decides who it lets through," he said after descending. K2 does not forgive overconfidence. World-class climbers have died here, masters of the highest peaks. The mountain reminds everyone, experience improves your odds, but never guarantees survival. Austrian legend Hermann Buhl, first to solo Nanga Parbat, fell to his death on K2. The mountain ignores reputation. Teamwork carries special weight. There are no guides and clients, only partners, equally exposed to the same danger. One weak link can doom the entire team. The Italian expedition of 1954 is a model of that spirit. Achille Compagnoni and Lino Lacedelli reached the summit, but only because every member played their part. No one tried to outshine the others. K2's code is built on honesty and mutual aid. Climbers share gear, food, and critical information. They help each other in crisis. Nationalities and politics disappear on these slopes. Pakistani alpinist Ali Sadpara once saved 3 European climbers by giving them his own oxygen when theirs ran out, then reached the summit without any himself. "On K2, we are all brothers," he said. "The mountain doesn't care where you come from." K2 offers no compromises. High-tech gear can't buy safety. A satellite phone won't stop an avalanche. A GPS won't guide you through a whiteout. Expensive equipment cannot replace skill. Every ascent here is a singular story. No 2 climbs are the same. Each climber finds their own line, develops their own strategy, makes their own calls. Polish alpinist Jerzy Kukuczka opened a new route on the South Face in 1986. Spending 3 weeks in a daily fight for survival. That is what it takes. K2 demands total commitment. You cannot climb it in passing. It requires months of preparation, weeks of acclimatization, days of unrelenting effort. The mountain asks for all of you. Many climbers speak of the meditative side of K2. It strips life to its essence, forcing you to focus on what truly matters. It is a spiritual experience no commercial expedition can offer. Italian legend Reinhold Messner calls K2 the mountain of mountains. To him, it defines what it means to be a climber. Those who summit K2, he says, understand what mountains really are. K2 remains a symbol of pure alpinism, preserving the spirit of the heroic age when success depended only on skill, will, and luck. When every ascent was a true feat, not a package adventure. Unwritten rules still hold here. Help a partner in trouble. Never abandon the injured, share your last piece of bread, tell the truth about your climb, respect the mountain and your fellow climbers. The modern world changes at a furious pace. Technology opens the farthest corners, money buys access to almost anything, but K2 remains untouched, a place where a human stands alone with nature and with themselves. K2 is an exam for the soul, a test of everything you believe, a trial of will, mastery, and courage. Here you can't deceive the mountain or yourself. You can only be completely honest. Every climber who steps onto K2 knows they are entering the most serious game of their life, where the stakes are life itself, where there are no second chances, where only the best may succeed and even the best may fall. K2 is a mountain for the chosen, not chosen by wealth or connections, but by dedication and skill. It is the last great peak where climbing remains an art, not a business. Great mountains keep great secrets. Behind every conquered summit are not just stories of triumph, but riddles that haunt historians for decades. Everest and K2 are no exception. Both hide mysteries that still split the climbing world into bitter camps. June 8, 1924. George Mallory and Andrew Irvine vanish into cloud on Everest's upper slopes. They are last seen at about 8,500 meters, moving toward the summit, and then the mountain goes silent. Forever. Mallory is a legend of British alpinism, the man who answered the question, "Why climb Everest?" with the line, "Because it is there." He brings 3 previous attempts, deep experience, and an iron will. Irvine is his opposite, a 22-year-old Oxford student with little high-altitude experience, but a mechanic's touch and absolute loyalty. He mines the expedition's oxygen sets, That morning, they leave the last camp for the top, carrying the crude oxygen gear of the 1920s, heavy, awkward, unreliable, but the best available. Noel Odell, their teammate, remains lower on the mountain. At 12:50 in the afternoon, he spots two tiny figures on the ridge, moving toward the summit. Then the clouds close. Mallory and Irvine are never seen alive again. So begins one of mountaineering's greatest mysteries. Did the Britons reach the summit? Were they the first on the roof of the world 29 years before Hillary and Tenzing? Or did they die short of their dream? There is no proof, only fragments and endless argument. Some believe they succeeded, others call it impossible. No one knows. 1999 brings a shock. An American search team finds Mallory's body at about 8,155 meters, remarkably preserved in the mountain's ice. Clothing, papers, personal effects, intact. But the crucial item is missing, the little Kodak camera Mallory meant to use for summit photos. If they had made it, those pictures would be the proof. The camera is gone, left on the summit perhaps, or with Irvine. Irvine's body has never been found. Somewhere in Everest's snows, a young Oxford student likely lies with that camera in his pack, perhaps holding the most important images in climbing history. Modern analysts run the numbers, routes, weather windows, time calculations. Some argue Mallory and Irvine could have done it, others insist they could not. Chinese climbers reported finding a European body in 1975, around 8,100 meters, details that match Irvine, but the body later vanished. The 2015 earthquake altered the terrain, and the search began anew. The Mallory-Irvine mystery split the climbing world. Romantics believe. Skeptics point to technical limits. The debate has raged for a century, with no end in sight. July 31st, 1954. K2 is about to receive its first conquerors. The Italian expedition led by Ardito Desio stands on the brink of triumph, while behind the scenes, a drama unfolds that will divide the team for decades. Achille Compagnoni and Lino Lacedelli are slated for the summit push, the backbone of the Italian party. Supporting them is a rising star, Walter Bonatti. Only 24, but already among the strongest. The plan is simple. Bonatti and the Hunza porter, Mahdi, will carry oxygen cylinders up to the high camp. Compagnoni and Lacedelli will collect the oxygen and head for the summit. Bonatti will retreat to safety. The plan unravels immediately. Compagnoni and Lacedelli pitch their camp higher than expected. Bonatti, burdened with heavy cylinders, cannot reach them before dark. The deadly game begins. Radio contact is poor. Messages cross and tangle. Compagnoni demands the oxygen at any cost. Bonatti warns that pushing on in darkness is suicide. Mahdi panics in the cold and fear. Night falls. Bonatti and Mahdi are stranded on K2's face with no tent, no sleeping bags, no hot food. The temperature plunges to 40 below. The wind knocks them off balance. Death is almost certain. But the young Italian does the impossible. He warms the freezing porter with his own body, shares clothing, keeps him awake, because at that altitude sleep is death. He fights through the night for 2 lives. At dawn, Compagnoni and Lacedelli collect the cylinders and go on. At 6 in the evening, on July 31st, they reach the top, become heroes of Italy, and step into history as the first to summit K2, awards, fame, money. Bonatti descends with frostbitten fingers and a broken heart. He saved the climb at the cost of his health. Without his night on the slope, the Italians would not have summited. No one says so out loud. Worse, the leadership blames Bonatti for breaking the plan, accusing him of sabotaging the oxygen delivery. The scapegoating begins. The official report buries his feet, painting the bivouac as his personal failure and hiding his heroism to preserve the leader's glory. Bonatti stays silent for years, no counter-narrative, no public attacks, the behavior of a gentleman, while the wound of betrayal eats away. Only in the 1960s does the truth surface. Team members break ranks and describe what really happened. Bonatti is revealed as the hero, not the villain. Mahdi, the porter who survived that lethal night beside Bonatti, confirms the account. How the young Italian saved him with body heat, shared the last scraps of food, refused to let him drift into sleep. The scandal reignites. The Italian press splits into camps, some defending the 1954 heroes, others demanding justice. The argument drags on for decades. Compagnoni denies any fault to his dying day. Lacedelli softens with time, but never fully admits error. In 2004, on the 50th anniversary of the ascent, the Italian Alpine Club formally rehabilitates Bonatti, naming him a hero of the expedition and apologizing for decades of injustice. By then, it hardly matters to Bonatti. He has left big mountain climbing, disillusioned by people, devoting himself to travel and photography, choosing a private life far from the spotlight. In 2011, Walter Bonatti dies at 81, one of the greatest alpinists of all time, gone without the full recognition he deserved in life, his name known best to connoisseurs of the craft. The Bonatti case exposed alpinism's dark side: ambition, envy, the fight for glory, the willingness to sacrifice a partner for personal triumph, betrayal dressed as heroism. Both mysteries, the Mallory enigma and the Bonatti affair, teach the same lesson. High-altitude climbing tests more than the human body. It tests character, loyalty, honesty, the capacity for self-sacrifice. Mallory and Irvine may have reached Everest's summit in 1924. They certainly reached the heights of human courage, pursuing a dream to their last breath. Bonatti did not stand on K2's summit in 1954, but he climbed to the heights of human nobility, saving a partner at the cost of his own health, refusing to betray even when betrayed. The mountains keep their secrets. But the deepest secret is not who stood first on a summit. It is who you are when you come down, whether you are better or worse, lifted in spirit or diminished. Everest and K2 test us to the core, not only our strength and skill, but our moral fiber. In that exam, reaching the top matters less than remaining human. The riddles of the peaks will endure as long as the peaks themselves. Each generation will chase the eternal questions. Who was first? Who acted rightly? Who deserves the laurel? But perhaps the answers that matter most are not in archives or artifacts. They live in the hearts of those who go to the mountains not for glory but for truth, not for victory but for understanding themselves. Death in the mountains takes many forms. Everest kills in large numbers but with grim predictability. K2 strikes like a hunter, silent, precise, impossible to stop. One mountain has become a factory of tragedy with a well-oiled conveyor belt. The other remains a wild beast, stalking its prey one climber at a time. The numbers tell their own story. K2 holds the darkest record of all the world's 8,000ers. 1 in 4 climbers who stand on its summit never make it home. That is not a statistic. It is a sentence. Everest seems almost gentle by comparison. A death rate of about 3% feels manageable next to K2. But behind those percentages lies a brutal truth. In sheer count, Everest has claimed more lives than any other peak, over 300 against roughly 90 on K2. A smaller percentage still adds up to a staggering toll. K2 kills with professional precision. Only the strongest and most skilled even attempt it, yet nature still wins. Towering Serac Falls, the mountain's deadliest weapon, drop without warning, sending thousands of tons of ice crashing down in seconds. Climbers have no time to be afraid. Death is instant, like a lightning strike. On the 1st of August 2008, a single Serac fall wiped out 11 lives in a heartbeat. Veterans from 7 nations died, not from fatigue or mistakes, but from a wall of collapsing ice. There is no defense against that. Rockfall is just as merciless. Daytime sun loosens the ice that holds the stones. Car-sized boulders roar down at bullet speed in what climbers call the mountain's gunfire, a game of Russian roulette with stone bullets. In 1986, a rock the size of a soccer ball punched through French climber Serge K's helmet and skull. He was gone before his teammates even knew what happened. Avalanches are constant on K2's steep slopes. A slight warming, a shift of wind, and the White Death rushes down. In 2004, Spaniard José Carlos Tamayo was swept away just 200 meters from the safety of camp. They found his body a week later, under 5 meters of snow. The weather turns on a dime. A sunny morning can become a killing storm in half an hour. Wind knocks you off your feet, visibility drops to nothing, temperatures plunge to 50 below. Norwegian climber Ole Opdal faced such a storm in 2014. Visibility shrank to a single meter. The temperature fell from 10 below to 40 below in an hour. He lost his bearings 10 meters from his tent and froze to death. K2 allows no mistakes. One slip is a fall into the void. One moment of distraction can mean a fatal drop. Every meter of the route is a final exam. In 2008, Italian climber Marco Confortola survived a 100-meter fall onto a narrow ledge, ribs broken and head battered. "On K2, you get lucky once," he said later. "There is no second chance." Everest kills differently, slowly, almost politely. Here, the real danger is not the mountain, but other people. Crowds of inexperienced climbers turn the climb into a deadly traffic jam. The death zone, above 8,000 meters, is infamous for bottlenecks, where hundreds of people wait in line, burning precious oxygen and strength. Many die just short of the top. On the 22nd of May, 2019, a queue of more than 300 climbers stretched for 2 kilometers near the summit. Some waited 8 hours in the thin air. 11 died that day, not from falls or avalanches, but simply from exhaustion in line. Indian climber Anjali Kulkarni stood motionless for 4 hours before her oxygen ran out and her body gave up, while others stepped past her to continue upward. High-altitude sickness is Everest's silent killer. At the summit, the air holds barely a third of the oxygen found at sea level. Brains swell from lack of it, often fatally. Japanese climber Nobukazu Kuriki finally reached the top on his 8th attempt, only to collapse from brain swelling on the descent. He never recovered. Frostbite maims hundreds every year. Novices often dress poorly or fail to protect their fingers and toes. Many lose digits as if it were just part of the price. In 1996, American climber Beck Weathers lost his right hand, his nose, and several fingers to the cold. "I paid $65,000 to become disabled," he later said. "The most expensive mistake of my life." Exhaustion remains Everest's most common killer. Underprepared climbers overestimate their strength and collapse when their bodies can go no further. In 1998, British climber Frances Arsentiev lay down to rest during her descent and never got up. Rescuers found her alive the next day, but could not move her. She died in front of them. Avalanches in the Khumbu icefall are another perennial threat. House-sized blocks of ice shift and crash without warning. Even the fastest climbers sometimes fail to outrun them. On the 18th of April 2014, an avalanche there buried 16 Sherpas under 10 meters of ice. The core difference between K2 and Everest is the human factor. K2 kills through raw nature. Serac falls, rockfall, sudden storms. Master or novice, you cannot outclimb the elements. Everest kills through human error, overconfidence, inexperience, bad decisions. Most Everest deaths could have been prevented. K2 remains a mountain for professionals who accept the risk as part of the bargain. Death is tragic but expected. Everest has become a playground for paying amateurs, many of whom believe money buys safety and modern gear guarantees survival. For them, death comes as a shock. It is a paradox. The shorter mountain is far deadlier. K2 stands 237 meters lower than Everest, but is 8 times more lethal. K2 is the sniper, rarely firing but always on target. Everest is the machine gun, spraying bullets, most missing, but enough striking to leave piles of bodies at its base. Both peaks teach the same harsh lesson. The heights forgive nothing. It does not matter how you arrive, on foot or by helicopter, or how much you paid. The only question is whether you are ready to die for your dream. Everest has become the most democratic mountain on Earth. Anyone can die there, billionaire or postman, seasoned climber or stay-at-home parent. Commercial expeditions have turned the roof of the world into a factory of dreams and nightmares. Every year, hundreds arrive chasing a single moment of triumph, a photo at the top of the world. But the cost is higher than most imagine. More than 300 lives in 70 years, nearly 5 every year. Behind each number lies a family shattered, a future lost. Its dangers are well known: altitude sickness, exhaustion, frostbite, avalanches, death zone traffic jams. Guides warn everyone, yet warnings often fail. Better training, stricter client limits, fewer climbers. Any of these could have saved lives. But the market sets the rules. Modern Everest is a mirror of consumer culture. Thrills for sale, records for purchase, social media glory at a price. K2 remains the last stronghold of elite mountaineering. No one comes for selfies. Every climber earns the right to be there through years of discipline. Yet even the elite die. 91 deaths among roughly 370 summiters, 1 in 4. This is not risk, it is sacrifice. Serac, falls, storms, and rockfall strike without warning. No skill can stop them. K2 is brutally honest. It sells no illusions, offers no easy way, promises no safety. Choosing between the two is choosing a philosophy of risk. Everest offers managed danger, guides to lead you, technology to help, a calculated gamble for those who can pay. K2 demands everything at once. Every choice is yours alone. It is pure climbing, no discounts, no compromises. Both paths are valid. Some buy a dream on Everest, others stake their lives on K2. What matters is knowing the price. These mountains teach enduring lessons. Ambition can cost a life. Preparation saves it. On Everest, it is essential. On K2, it is only the beginning. Nature's power dwarfs human achievement. Even in an age of space travel and artificial intelligence, the mountains remain the ultimate authority. And every statistic hides real people, parents, children, friends. The human spirit endures all this. Despite every danger, climbers still go, drawn by something beyond self-preservation. So, which is more dangerous? By total deaths, Everest leads, over 300 against about 90. By percentage, K2 dominates, 1 in 4 versus roughly 1 in 30 on Everest. But the real danger is underestimating the mountain. Money cannot buy safety on Everest. Skill cannot guarantee survival on K2. Both are deadly. Both demand sacrifice. The choice is only how you wish to risk your life, lost in a crowd or alone on an empty face. Everest and K2 are more than mountains. They are symbols of human drive, monuments to ambition and courage, memorials to those who dared a few minutes at the top of the world. They remind us that some dreams are worth any effort, even a life. The peaks will stand forever, luring new dreamers, taking more lives, and rewarding a rare few with the right to say, "I stood on the roof of the world." Each climber must decide, are you willing to pay the price these giants demand? To wager everything for a handful of steps closer to the stars? In the end, it matters less which is deadlier. What matters is that both make people reach higher or die trying. That is their mystery and their truth. The price of greatness is always life itself.